Hello there, I am the Abyssal Drink,
And I'm back.
and this is another ranked game commentary from me.
I'm just gonna forget that last game ever happened. What do a broken potion?
And this game will not go
Go
well
Dorans.
at all.
I know Keegan said it was bad, but I'm gonna do
My
it
matchup
anyway.
is against an Annie, and I am a Zoe. The matchup is... It's Zoe favored with the early push and in very key situations, but then it's Annie favored in other situations. There is no real one is guaranteed to win over the other. It really more so just depends on how things happen.
Come on, man.
In this game, there won't be much that I can do on my end. It's just kind of the nature of how our teams are, that even if I do end up playing better, and I play like shit sometimes, the game still is probably going to end up going the way that it does. In the early game, the only thing I'm looking to do is just make sure that I'm winning my lane. I'm not going to go top ever. There's very few times that I actually roam. There just isn't too much to roam to. Bot lane is going to do rather well in the early game without me, and top lane is a Teemo versus Gangplank. There's just not much I'm going to be doing there. So the big thing that I'm really worried about for my lane in particular is a Zac gank. In the early levels, he can't really gank me so long as I'm careful with my positioning.
I missed it. No.
But as
I
he
didn't even have perfect CS.
gets all the way to
Shit.
mid game, he'll be able to gank me
Ah, we're
very
talking all
easily,
bad parts.
even if I position as safely as possible.
Don't touch me. Oh, I messed that up hard. I somehow miss all my abilities, yet I still win that trade.
Yes.
I swear, I'm a
it's-
Zoe main. I play her all the time.
Like I said, I play like shit quite often.
There's Zach. He's
I
on
haven't
map.
been playing
Hey,
Zoe games all too often. More so I've been playing a lot of
No,
Silas
cannon!
games instead
Oh,
in my ranked.
you bitch.
So this is
Fuck you.
me being a little bit rusty on my Zoe, and my skill shots just aren't the most amazing.
Don't touch me.
I can't
I'm
time
just a
things
little
correctly
girl.
at all.
I'm also like
I'm
a
pretty
million
much just
years
really
old.
lucky when I'm doing very well on Zoe.
Good job, bot lane. Still don't know where the Zac is. Mommy, look at me. I like to tiddly-dee. Bop.
For the most part, all my trades should just be going like this. Me throwing out short cues onto the Annie
Ah, fuck.
and trying to
Ah,
weave
don't-
them
wait, no, we're
in
fine, we're fine.
ways that the minions won't hit her.
Got her.
And one thing that should be noted if you're going to fight a Zoe is her Q is attached to her model. So if she's going to land a Q on you, she has to step up no matter what.
Hey, got her flash. That's what we like. That's what we like to see. We like to see them flashes. If only my bubble had landed, then I would have flashed after her. And then ignited her. And then killed her.
My
I get
bubble
this?
wouldn't have landed
Yes.
anyway.
Oh shit, wait, Zach's on top side. Fuck. Don't go towards top
With
side.
the wave
It's
so
dangerous.
built up against me, landing the bubble
you might
was
have
never
it
going to
now.
happen.
Fuck you. I'm gonna poke her in the butt. I'm gonna poke her nut. She left. My first balloon. It only took like 3 waves or something. I don't know. I'm not paying attention. Touch. I'm gonna freeze and it's a slow push. This lane is fucked for her.
Now in this game,
And I got a
I'll just say it already, because there's not much I can really talk about at the moment. The Teemo is basically useless.
Where did you go, Annie?
Regardless, he's not going to truly beat the Gangplank, because Gangplank isn't really going to be worried about not being able to land his Q. It's technically an ability, so it's not going to be affected by the blind from Teemo.
Probably like really gonna get me banned.
So Teemo isn't going to have too much of a good time,
Touch.
and it's just not going to go well for him at all.
Holy shit! Wait, no.
Now here, that's
I don't know
basically
what I was doing. I don't know.
me screwing up. I normally have the instinct to always call out when an enemy uses a summoner.
Oh, that's all my bad. I fucked that up hard.
So when I was
All me.
pulling up the scoreboard to ping out Zack's flash, or Gangplank's ultimate, I had clicked in such a way that I ended up pathing back into it, which made it so that the Zack could flash on top of me to get a kill. So, not great by me. It's not too big of a deal.
That's all me.
I'm not gonna get
I
punished
suck.
for not having my flash for the next 5 minutes. It's just one of those small mistakes that I make.
It's probably gonna gank me again.
Now, as for how the team fights should be going out in the later stages of the game, Zoe doesn't team fight very well, if at all. Yes, if she's really fed and can land all of her abilities, then
No,
she can do very well in a team fight. But it just, how to say it?
Oh, there it is.
She's very limited in the fact that all of her damage is front loaded into her Q.
I'm on the way. I'm coming, guys.
And in team fights, her Q AoE is not large enough to where it's going to affect any more than one person.
Yeah.
So all of her damage is highly single target. And with low mobility coming only from her ultimate, which gives her enemies a target location that they can aim for, Zoe just is not going to be performing all that well. She has to be pretty much ignored throughout a fight for anything to happen, or the enemy just can't be able to do damage. Like here, I'm not taking any damage from the Trist. She's super behind, so, and the Zack doesn't have too many items to where he actually is a threat to me.
She doesn't have flash. I'm not worried. Man, I fucked my.
If it ever sounds like I'm zoning out, like I'm talking and then I stop talking, and it feels like I was making a point but then stopped, I forget what I'm talking about half the time. So that's the thing. Here, just Zoe weakness. Like I can't do anything about anything. Maybe I could smite the Tibbers, but once my abilities are all on cooldown, I'm even worse than Annie for team fights. Here, I could have stolen this dragon. It's just really poor timing. On my part. Really poor timing, and my auto attack never goes through. If it does, I take dragon really easily, but that's not the case.
That's Cloud though.
Normally I'll say if it's a Cloud Soul dragon, that Cloud Soul can be really good,
Oh my god.
considering that
Going too.
the way
This is
games
good.
are played in, well, non-professional. Having your ultimate up just a few seconds before the enemy is pretty big. In professional play, teams play around objectives, and normally their cooldowns are already low enough between each objective fight that they have their ultimates all prepared. In pub games, that's normally never the case. People use their ultimates pretty much whenever without considering objectives at all.
Like Annie can't one-shot a backblade.
You shouldn't, but that's just how it kind of goes. So Cloud Drake is nice, but 10% cooldown reduction, it's not the end of the world.
Whee, smack.
Here, just some solid damage onto the Annie. And that's pretty much it.
I just gotta be careful of a Zac gank. Oh, he's up top. Whatever then.
So I think here's the moment where it is very clear and obvious, like,
oh, God
that
damn.
this matchup can
She
kind of
just
go
100 to
either
0.
way. Yes, I can take out
That's
half
lame.
her HP, but if I'm in a bad position against her, she just point and click
I wasn't
stuns
expecting
me,
her to 100 to 0 me. This is gonna be
and
hard.
I can't dodge Tibbers because Tibbers just immediately appears.
Well, in terms
Riot,
of what goes on in a
why
team
is
fight,
Tibbers so
not that
instantaneous? There's like no counterplay
Come on, dude, you're
against it
supposed
at
to be
all.
silly.
So that's just, it is what it is.
Oh, that's also not good.
There are times where I'll one-shot her and she can one-shot me. It just depends on
I'm just playing
the
poorly.
positioning
I
of
haven't
either
played
one of
Zoe in
us.
a long time.
Her
She
W
lives.
saves her because of the innate magic resistance
That's
that it
so
gives to her.
lame.
At least I think it gives her resistances. I don't play Annie, but I do
That
know
is
that
so
she gets some defenses from activating her shield,
If I didn't waste Ignite back there.
which I think is kind of lame considering she can,
Oh,
again,
too late.
100 to 0 with point and click
Gotcha.
stuns, but whatever, Riot.
You gotta stop being stupid.
If I had saved my Ignite from the previous fight, I would have definitely killed her. So that's just me not thinking things through when I'm in the middle of a confrontation, like
Can we
normal.
win? I mean, through Caitlyn, yeah, we can win. We can win through Caitlyn. It's fine. I think. I don't know. I just wanna die every day. It's like a torture wheel. She just bit. We stop that. Why do I always miss the cannon?
I need to get better at my cannon farming on
By the
Zoe.
way, technically. Hello? Seems like no one's there.
I undershoot
Ah,
it.
shit, I fucked up.
I can't really judge movement speed all
fucking
that
up.
well.
Okay.
This
I'll take
fight
this.
is still going to go relatively well for us. I'm not getting attacked, and again, the Trist is not doing much. What I should be doing is going after the Nami in
Yeah, I
that
could've played so
situation.
much better.
If I go after
Oh,
the Nami, then
Madness.
I could have killed her instead of
feeling's
going
fine
after
now.
Trist because Caitlyn can ult the Trist. That would have just been a better play. I undershoot it, but we still managed to kill him. Although Silas dies,
I have a
in the
sniper.
end,
I don't wanna.
maybe if I landed my Q, he would have lived. But it kind of is what it is. Just another thing that I need to be better at is my distance judging. I don't know why I threw my bubble down. That was just weird. I don't break Tristana so that I can pick up the smite. And then while this does seem like a bad fight for me, so many smites get pulled out that I'm able to just end up healing off the dragon, and Zach comes in way too far ahead without his team being able to do anything.
So I can get some HP. You can smite this real quick.
So now the dragon is free. There's Silas smite. There's me with the smite. It's ours.
I did not time that correctly, but it worked out in the end. Yay!
Even if I don't time it correctly, it'd still be better just to make sure that I time it correctly for the sake of practice, because there are times where you'll end up having a smite, but it is a smite fight instead of anything else.
Fuck. I'm just so bad.
Here,
Fuck.
I hit the
Well,
raptors.
I always
It happens rather often. So now my wave is screwed.
please defend this. For me.
I would not be able to take those minions without any mana.
Okay, I have my Ludens.
So I'm pretty much glad that
And
Silas
next up
could
is my
come pick up
Illuvian
that
Orb.
so I could back safely
See, I may be
and
down in a
not
kill,
have everything screwed up for me.
kill participation, but I'm up in CS. A lot of CS. So I'm not that far down.
Because Annie would be able to shove the wave in much faster, and I would be getting back to wave a lot slower. Luckily, it was a cannon wave, so I probably would still have these minions, but still, it's something
there's so much vision
for me
based
to really consider.
Wow.
Something I also need to be is mindful about the camps
Yo, I have a redemption.
when I'm throwing out my abilities. I play a lot towards bot side. Timo could have survived that. He didn't need to step out of the bush.
I'm going back.
I think he stepped out of it, but either way, stepping out or auto attacking
Like, you couldn't have
the
just stayed in the bush,
gangplank.
mate. Couldn't have just stayed in the bush.
Probably wasn't what he meant to do. He does say, what was that pathing? So he probably accidentally walked out of the bush. But, so, it just kind of is what it is, I guess. There's her flash. And this is just something that is just so super annoying.
Fuck off, Tibbers. Fuck off.
Tibbers
Fuck off.
just half healthing
Thank
me
you.
so easily. Kind of another reason why I don't like Annie.
I got a flash.
there's-
I got a flash. Yes, yes, I got a flash.
A friend of mine always likes to talk shit whenever he sees me play Zoe and sees me one-shot somebody with a Q. He says, how do I sleep at night?
I'm coming bot
And
lane.
it's things like that
Probably
where
dead, though.
I'm getting half HP'd from
Oh, I'm taking
something
out.
like a Annie ultimate that I say I don't give a fuck. There are so many one-shot abilities in this fucking game. Some that take less skill than Zoe. Popular, despite popular belief, no, contrary to popular belief, Zoe isn't that ridiculous.
I'm pushing
She really
way
isn't when you
towards
think
that
about
versus
things
dead.
that in the grand scheme of things.
And I have the Oblivion Orb. Do I
Like,
get
just consider,
Problems?
like, let's consider a team fight situation. Say that unlikely scenario.
I think I do get
But-
Problems.
Say the entire enemy team, you're Zoe, and the entire enemy team is grouped up as 5, literally clumped onto one another,
Wait.
and you throw out Q. Your Q is probably going to hit the tank first, and is going to deal next to no damage, and then the spread damage won't get
Still got
all
you.
that far. A typical model is maybe 2 range minions, and this can hit, your Q can hit like a clumped up group of 4 ranged minions. So it's not going to hit everyone on the enemy team, but Annie can hit everyone on the enemy team with both her E and her ultimate, and it's going to deal a lot of damage. So in terms of who I'd rather have for a team fight situation, I would say an Annie. I'm just not allowed to do what I should be able to do as Zoe, which is land my bubble for the sake of getting picks. And I know in that moment where, yes, I do run Annie down, it's not that big of a deal. That's just the one thing that I can do as Zoe, and that's about it. That's the extent of my existence.
They're gonna run away. I'm so sad.
Where the enemy is just all by themselves. Here's me missing my abilities again. At this point, I should be walking away, just leaving. There's no point of me sticking around, especially with Annie coming back. I missed the bubble, and I don't want to go to the right because there's a gangplank, and I don't want to stick around to get Annie ulted, so I have to expend my flash. It was stupid. I shouldn't have been there.
That was a stupid mistake.
Following Silas in this game is not very, very good. Just me one-shotting Annie again.
But I had a knight coming up at literally the right moment.
The better call here would be me to get a Banshee's Veil,
Push out bot lane.
just so that I could avoid like one instance of maybe Annie's damage, to avoid her stun,
Jump on the Nami. That works.
or to avoid Zac jumping on me with his E.
That's dead Nami. Fish fry. Fish fry. Oops.
Now this is something that happens more often than it should. Silas is very aggressive in this game, mispositioning a lot,
Okay, I'm going back
to the point where he ends up dying before any of us can come react to him.
Oh, my head.
And we're already at a disadvantage with the Teemo pretty much being useless,
No, it's gone.
as I've said, and it's just not. Team fights just don't go well for us without Silas. It's basically a 3v5, essentially.
Wolves.
There, I'm not mindful of a camp, and even if I was, I probably would still die. Annie can pretty much put out her entire combo on me in that split second where I appear with my ultimate.
There's nothing on the map for them to take. They're not doing very.
The way that I should play it out is if Annie is going to
No, it's just not what thought. They're not doing very.
use her Zhonya's, I have to
500 gold.
just play back. Because normally when I fight people who use Zhonya's and I hit them with the bubble duration lasts longer than Zhonya's. So even after they leave it, if I hit them with my Q, the true damage is still going to occur. So I'm pretty good about timing when the Zhonya's is going to trigger, and I get the best Q that I can. But with Annie, I should basically be going for a new position instead, because of just that 100 to 0 potential that she has.
Wow. No, and it was a bubble. I'm just gonna say, like, that's a dangerous side to be on.
So here's going to be one situation where Silas is just too deep. He's not respecting Annie's items. He's not respecting their team. And regardless of whatever I land, I'm not going to be able to save him. So he's just too far in. without respecting anyone. Caitlyn's not nearby. It's only me. Nautilus
All I
isn't
had to
nearby.
was
And
not
Dragon
fuck
will be
up.
up soon.
And that's
So
what-
we don't have the chance to
I
go
mean, it's just
gain
going up
any
off.
vision control.
Yeah, that's not a good.
Teemo being topside is kind of good because it is
He might
pressure.
make it
Someone
back.
does have to
Might.
answer him,
We don't know.
but they're not really all that pressured.
Hello?
Teemo split push
Someone
with,
running in
well, our Teemo split push
there. Yeah, I'm gonna push
is
him.
not
Push
the
out
end of the world. Levels of split push. He's only 1 in 3. He has
And he's
only
alive,
1.5
and she's on
items,
topside.
barely any attack
She
speed.
doesn't want this dragon.
It's just, it kind of just means nothing for him to be split pushing.
I knew he would do that. That's why I threw my Q early.
I basically only have 2 targets that I can reliably throw my bubble
Why is
out
it
that'll make a
sometimes I'm
difference.
fucking God and other times I'm not.
It being Tristana and Nami. Hitting Zac, I might delay him, but he's still a tank. In terms of getting out damage, it's not going to be him. I overthrow my bubble there, but it lands on the Trist, which is pretty good.
No!
Gangplank
The fuck
just hits
shit,
super hard
dude.
with his items.
This is not
And
good.
the Nami
This is
is,
definitely
yeah, the
not
Nami and
good.
the Trist
This
are
is
the
not
only
good at
2
all.
items, 2 champions that I can hit and get something out of with my Q. There I only get her because of my
Please.
Ignite.
Just die.
But me making these picks don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's like, okay, it's some gold for me, but the way that these fights play
Do
out,
anything about it. Leave me
it
alone.
won't give me enough of an
It's fucking
edge.
Gangplank.
It's
He's
not
gonna
going to
tear it
give
down
me an
so
edge
quickly anyway.
to do anything. If I bubble the Gangplank, he's just going to use his oranges against it. And if I
that
bubble the
sucks.
Annie, she's going to Zonya's.
See,
She'll still have time to put out her full combo before the bubble fully goes off, and she'll probably one-shot the Silas, or at least put him in a position to where he will die.
we can win. But like, if we end up in team fights, we're not winning that. Not really.
Our win condition is to look for picks. We have to set up vision and get picks somewhere. I missed my bubble again. I could probably get drunk
Yeah,
taking a shot
that works.
every time I miss a bubble. That could have resulted in a kill. And just be
Timo,
nice and
We're
drunk.
gonna have to do that.
But if I land bubble on Nami, Gangplank still clears wave, but we would be able to pressure them
They
for a
kinda
little
need
bit
me, so I can't
longer
really go anywhere.
because they don't have the comfort that is Nami. And Silas wouldn't have probably dived under tower just to try to kill Nami. He shouldn't have done it because that just ends up in him getting killed. And I don't remember what happened to Caitlyn. She was there and then she wasn't. Pretty unfortunate. This is funny. I like that. But fights playing out like that just aren't ever worth it.
Nah, dude.
I flash just because I don't want to get slowed and
I'm
eventually
flashing.
end up getting into a getting hit by a GP barrel. I don't want GP being able to run up on me easily.
How do we win this game, though? Banshees.
Now Annie has a Banshee. She's a lot more harder for me to do anything
Now they're
against.
trying to pick against me. I think I also go for Banshees. I don't know. The GP is the biggest threat. There's also the Annie. She's also a fucking nuisance. Not for me, though. Like, I can probably pop her thing with the Luden's proc. I would like to get the fucking dragon. Ooh, I'll take this.
Tristana's on top side, so it lets us get some vision. I should be placing my control ward in this bush just to make sure that there's no vision inside of it. I tend to forget whether things are warded or not rather easily. So there, the Ludens doesn't want to hit Annie's thing, so I'm just trying to pop it, but I'm just really bad at aiming this. And she ends up flashing on me, and
you know what? I'll fucking take it.
I'm just 100 to 0. We get the Annie in return. The problem is the Nautilus is going to die. Caitlyn is going to walk back up for some reason, and she's going to die. And then Silas is going to die.
I got caught out.
That's basically me messing up trying to pop her Banshees. I'm not really, like, I'm not disrespecting the Annie by trying to pop her Banshees. It's still a good thing to try and pop it. It's just I mess it up really hard, and they get dragon off of this. It would have been helpful if Silas was closer to us. Instead, he was on top side for some reason. Teemo can, even though he's pretty far behind, he can still clear out waves relatively well enough.
Fucking ridiculous. Caitlin's starting to fall off too, compared to the trees. I mean, I don't know.
I say it because Caitlyn isn't a hyper carry. She's pretty strong early game with the fact that she has her passive if she can get off a good combo. Having a Nautilus really helps to keep the enemy rooted in a place where she can just keep placing down traps to keep getting her passive off, and also getting to trigger her passive with her W. But as soon as it comes down to a battle of auto attacks, Tristana is just going to scale much harder than the Caitlyn, because of Tristana's built-in attack speed steroid, as well as her E. And the safety that Tristana has is much stronger than the safety that Caitlyn has because of the rocket jump, as well as the buster shot, which I think I'm getting that wrong, but it's her ultimate.
This is a weird fight for them.
Here I actually do land my abilities, but this is just a situation where Annie is still
flashing away. What?
going to just deal so much damage to me, regardless of whether I ult up or not.
He actually managed to cast that on me.
And then Tristana just ults me and gets the kill there.
See, things were going so well, and then they weren't.
This is why I said sometimes Zoe can win the fight, other times Annie can win the fight. I wouldn't even consider it a skill matchup either.
I have no idea what to do with this.
It's just kind of, it really depends on the situation, because I can't get a favorable situation every single time. I should be better about realizing what situation it is and playing around only the ones that are good for me. But
People say
even though
Zoe's
I've played
OP,
this game a
like, yeah,
thousand
she can
times
one-shot
over,
people, but
even though I've played
you can't team fight
Zoe
very well,
hundreds of
unless no one is
games,
paying attention to
I'm
her,
still
and she learns
learning
everything.
about what I can do
which doesn't happen really all that much.
with my positioning, and still trying to figure out
Well,
when I can be aggressive and when I can't be. I don't know, you don't ever see it because I don't show the pick and bans, but I always ban no one.
I don't even think
I
that's
don't do any bans because I like to see
Nope.
every single
oh God.
possible situation I could end up in, and I want to know
He's fucking tough.
how I can deal with situations. I tend to pick Zoe so much that people will pick Yasuo into me, and I will win against the Yasuo, even get fed. I've made Yasuo's rage quit with my Zoe, and that's because I don't ban ever.
God damn it, minions.
And I've played against Zeds. Sometimes I've won, and sometimes I've lost. But because I open up the possibility for him to be picked, I know how I could at least fight against him. Here, I shouldn't be stepping up. As soon as I kill the Nami, I should just be done with that, but
I'm gonna die.
it's not what happens. I keep walking up.
Well, that
I
sucks.
don't respect the fact that Zac could appear.
Can't do anything
and,
against not engaged, dude. Can't do anything.
I end up getting killed by the Zac of all things, primarily.
I get a pick on Tsunami,
And then we just lose the game after this. Even if I do respect it, we still lose the game because Caitlyn and Naw just get blown up by the Annie.
I really need to look at this.
So this game was one where, just considering our composition and the way it went, we weren't going to win. But that's all there is.
Yep, gotta look at this
Bye.
more.